Please welcome Jeremy Kashan from class of 2015. Jeremy, if you just want, before you sit down, if you just stand over there. So you were involved with RTN when you were here.
Big time. I was the sports director for 2 years on the executive board, and that was huge experience. I think getting a chance to actually do it, right? You learn about it, that's great, you absorb, but then at some point you got to press the buttons and you got to work with your teammates and the people around you. And we put on the hockey games over at the rink off campus, the football games, and everything in between.
So did you know when you came here what you wanted to do?
I didn't. My high school didn't have television production, didn't have sports communication. We had the theater shows, so I got involved with that. I was doing the lighting, we were building the sets. I loved the entertainment and the storytelling and the technical part of the production. And I heard that Rowan had a good TV production program. I said, let me try this TV stuff. I like to play with the cameras and all that kind of stuff. And so that's where I ended up, and I found my path.
So you said to me just a couple minutes ago, man, I wish I had a sports communication media program when I was here.
Absolutely.
I hear that from a lot of guests, particularly our alumni, who come here and say, man, they didn't have this when I was in school. How would have you taken advantage of this when you were in school?
You guys are lucky. Let me tell you, I really think you guys are lucky. Not just to have great people in the room guiding you, but to have actual opportunities to meet with people in the professional fields. Because again, you can learn so much in a classroom. You can try so many things here on campus, but at some point you want to get a job and use that degree, right? And it comes down to who you know and how you can connect with those people, get your resume and your experience seen by the right people. That's a huge part of that, taking that next step. So something like this, I think, is a great opportunity to connect, and even from a basic level, figuring out what you want to do. I ask a lot of people who come up to me, I'm like, what job do you want? Whose job do you want in 5 years? Whose job do you want in 10 years? It's a great way to figure out what you want to do, right?
I throw that at these students all the time when
Yeah.
I meet with them. So in 2015, you graduate. Take me through your career journey in the last 10 years.
So I was lucky enough to be working at Comcast Sportsnet Philadelphia, now NBC Sports Philadelphia. I started out pulling cable for the locker room shots, pregame, postgame, for the Sixers, for the Flyers, really just like the bottom of the barrel, whatever I could do for an hourly gig. Worked my way up to doing camera and some teleprompter stuff and some of the other jobs around the studio. But to be completely honest, a lot of the camera guys there that were a little bit older, they said, we've been running camera for 30 years, our backs hurt, all these things. They were like, you should really make sure you pay attention in your writing classes. Pay attention to writing and producing, and maybe try that stuff. It was an honest feedback from some of the guys over there, and it got me to be thinking, like, maybe I got to take writing and producing a little more seriously. And because of course you fall in love with being on the Sixers bench, or on the Sixers locker room, on the Flyers bench. You're like, that building where the TV studio is the arena. It's all one, and the energy is just so alluring there. So after college, I applied for a number of different gigs. And the one that finally stuck after what was a good summer of searching was as a production assistant with NBC Sports in Stamford, which is sort of the mothership of the NBC Sports Philadelphia on the national network level. And it was working as features and documentaries production assistant for primarily the Rio Olympics, which were coming up. And so I had a full year lead into the Rio Olympics, which was really cool, and cut my teeth, like I said, on the other side of the television business, which was pre-production and writing and researching and all that kind of stuff towards long-form documentaries and short-form feature storytelling. A lot of the stuff you guys probably watch in the pre-game, post-game, stuff like that.
And you were at NBC for how long?
About 7 years.
Yeah.
Six.
So from the beginning to the end, how much did your job change?
When I started out as a production assistant, I was assisting producers with stuff like research. There was a lot of assistant editing work, so I was labeling every single clip. You guys, anyone that's worked with cameras, you'll know you press the button all these times, you make all these different clips. We labeled every single clip that came in from every single camera. So you think about a football game, a Kentucky Derby race, and then all the camera guys go out and shoot all different clips of everything going on. We labeled every single clip, and so that was my first full-time job, was making sure that those clips were labeled so that 4 years when the next Olympics came by, we could find what we needed very easily. So that was the first gig, and worked my way up to getting to actually produce some of those features and produce some of those documentary segments and stuff like that for NFL, hockey when we had it, horse racing, dog shows even.
And then after NBC, when does overtime get into your world?
Yeah, so I always knew that, there was this digital world that was creeping up, and as much as, again, television was really fun, really rewarding, things were starting to really buzz in that digital space with social media and Instagram and TikTok and even YouTube. And so I got the opportunity and saw a job that I applied for doing that type of work at Overtime, and gave it a go, and kind of took the leap of faith to jump out of what I really kind of felt like I knew at that point, which was television and documentary, and go more into the digital world to try to cut my teeth and continue to grow.
So now you have kind of an idea what Jeremy has done over the course of his career. This is over a 10-year period. It's got to be weird. I always think about this when I bring alumni back. It always has to be weird, especially if you haven't been back here in a while, to think like, it doesn't seem that long ago I was sitting out in these seats.
It was not. It was not. We had our RTN meetings here every week. It was really not that long ago.
All right. So who has the first question for Leo? First question. Hand up. Go ahead, Leo.
All right. So Jeremy, now that you both work in the digital space and the traditional space on TV, what parts have you learned from your traditional job that that you've been able to bring over to digital, and what have you seen in the digital world that would make the traditional documentary space better?
That's a great question. I'll start with the feature and documentary space, like the traditional television and content. What you're noticing, I'm sure, is that everything that gets produced now has to get built out for all the different platforms. When a documentary comes out, they're clipping off the most viral pieces to put it on TikTok, because they're hoping that you'll see that and use that as promotion. It used to be just you had to put together a promo and pay for a spot in television and say, tonight at 7 p.m., watch our documentary. That's not how it is anymore. You can, for free, take your content, put in a little bit of work, cut it up in different places, and put it out on all these different platforms. So that's what I think, is coming to the documentary world, is figuring out, okay, I want to capture what I want for my 1.5 hour piece, but it shouldn't be an afterthought. It's got to be like, as you're going, like, ooh, that would work well on social. That'll go here in my documentary, but that'll also work really, really well as a social bit. So those are kind of parallel pathing. On the other side of things, for social, I think the storytelling always applies. Being able to identify a good character, being able to identify a good story, really doesn't matter the medium. That's always going to stay the same.
Thank you.
For sure.
Go ahead, Justin.
So you talked about the storytelling aspect. How do you make sure each story that you tell is different and better than the next?
How do you make sure each story is different and better than the next? Well, in my space, the athletes are always moving through, so it almost does it on its own. You have athletes come through. We do a show called Draft House, which follows the NFL draft. Every year we got new guys coming through, so you really can never rest. As soon as you finish one show, the next group of athletes are coming. But it's certainly a challenge to figure out, like, let's not go do the same thing with each athlete. And I think a lot of that comes with looking around you and seeing what other people are doing, because really at this point there aren't very many original ideas. Everyone's riffing off of what else is going on and what they're seeing successful in other places, but also talking to the people who you're telling the stories about, learning about them, not walking in with a cookie cutter mindset of what you want to do, but asking them about their story. And a lot of times you'll find something that you may not have known.
Right.
So you said that when you graduated, you applied for a lot of jobs. How did you keep motivated to your job search, entering the field for the first time professionally?
I wish I would have taken a look back at my Google Doc spreadsheet. I had a spreadsheet of what job I had applied for, the link to it, the date I applied for, if I knew anyone there. I had a little notes section, and I want to say it got down to the 30s or 40s, plus. I wish I had checked back and looked at the number, but it was really tough because there were, a lot of people that I went to college with, either in my major, not in my major, that were getting plucked up in their last spring semester, and it was tough. And I guess I was lucky. I had a good support system with my family, and I had been doing freelancing type work, so I was keeping busy in that way. Obviously, I wanted that big full-time gig. It was certainly tough, but I had to kind of take perspective on I'm gonna be working from when I'm 21, 22 years old till I retire at around 65. Like I got some time on my hands here.
You mentioned you were really busy that summer following your senior year, following graduation. What did that encompass? What were you doing to try to land a job? And I guess you were still working at at Comcast Sports Center during that time, or had you stopped working there? Do you recall?
Because I had to move off campus and I moved back in with my parents for a few months. I had to leave CSN Philly because I'm a North Jersey guy. It was a little bit of a commute to get down there. So I think I stepped away from CSN Philly. I was really full-time job application and networking at that point. But I had gotten a gig at it's called the NYMEX Exchange. For a couple months that summer, they do the trading. It's kind of like the stock market, but for gold and silver and commodities and stuff like that. So I was commuting into Lower Manhattan and doing a broadcast associate gig, I think it was called, liaisoning with CNBC and Bloomberg and just setting up live shots and all kinds of stuff like that. Anything I could get my hands on at that point.
It worked. It
Yeah.
worked. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I know Overtime does a lot of like posts and stuff. And how do you like stay up to date on all this stuff while not getting drained?
Staying up to date on what specifically?
I'd say basketball recruiting, behind the scenes work, stuff like that.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is that everyone who works at Overtime loves it. We love the sports. We love making content. It's truly a company full of content creators and sports junkies. So that really helps you not get burnt out. But, just like anything, you have to take time for yourself. You find yourself getting too caught up in work. You have to take a step away and, take account of what else is going on. And, they're big on making sure that people take vacation and take breaks. And with any creative field, like it's always going to be there. TikTok's always swiping to the next video. So you got to build in that for yourself.
Who owns Overtime?
Overtime is a venture capital backed company. They've had a couple fundraising rounds. There's a bunch of big investors that are kind of linked to it. But it all started with the Zion Williamsons of the world when iPhones were just getting good at shooting content and YouTube was on the rise. And a bunch of guys went around, guys and gals, I'm sure, went around filming those high school basketball games and creating mixtapes and posting them quickly, right? The ESPNs of the world would have a guy go out and they'd bring it back and they'd ingest, they'd put it into a show. These guys were taking the video and posting it that night up to YouTube and really leaning into that digital workflow, and that's kind of what's guided the company now.
So what is your guidelines as far as how quickly you try to get those videos up on whatever platform you're posting?
Yeah. Well, a lot of what I do now is branded content, where we're infusing, the content that we want to create, the stuff that we want to make with brands. So, the traditional TV format, you made content and then a commercial break ran, and then you made content and a commercial break ran. Now that stuff is really intersecting and the brands are becoming more and more involved, even down to the level of NBA jersey patches. Like they're finding more ways to insert brands in different ways in an integrated way. So a lot of that's kind of changed how it works. But that comes with some reviews from the brand. So you got to work with different partners, and that sometimes changes the rate at which you can do things. But, we follow the trends of the platforms. For a while, YouTube was really liking that quick cutting, quick turnaround vlog stuff. Now it seems like it's starting to come back to that more long form, slower storytelling. We're seeing that the majority of watch time is actually coming from TVs again, which is crazy. You thought YouTube was here on the phones, on the computers. People are now changing their viewing habits back to that old school TV mentality.
Is that because of smart TVs and YouTube's now available on television? You can watch it. Is that why?
Yeah, we think it's smart TVs and a generation that's now growing up like, oh wow, why don't I put this on the big screen?
Yeah. Branded content. Give me an idea of a company that you're working with on branded content.
Yeah. So my big show, NFL Draft House, follows 3 NFL draft prospects as they train and get ready and go through the NFL draft. And the sponsor we've had for a bunch of years now there has been Ram Trucks. And so we work with Ram and get their top of the line new trucks that they are pushing and trying to sell, and we connect those with the athletes. So we have them drive them around throughout the sort of documentary program. And, you know, they love working with the trucks because, you know, they're getting $100,000 truck put in their hands. Here, you get to drive this around and test drive it out and use it for a couple months. And so that's a cool thing when you have a brand that, you know, is a brand that the athletes actually want to be around.
Is there somebody that comes to mind about, oh, that was a lot of fun to do that shoot?
There's been so many. The Eagles fans in the room will like Jordan Davis, who we had on my first season doing the show. He loved driving the truck around. As you can imagine, he's a big dude. So putting him in a smaller car doesn't really work as well. He really fit the Ram Trucks mold for that.
All right, that's fun. All right, next question. What we got right here? Go ahead.
So you guys work with a lot of content creators as well as athletes. How is telling a story different with content creators versus athletes? How do you tell a different story there?
Yeah, with a content creator, you kind of want to pay respect to what their brand is, right? There's all kinds of different content creators. They do a specific voice, or they have a specific way they present graphics on screen, or a specific way they edit their videos. And you never want to take a guy and be like, oh, that's great how you do your videos. Now come and do it differently. Because you're just going to take away their audience and what they've built. So I think that's important when working with content creators, is like having an understanding and a respect for the audience that they've built, and then how can we amplify that, you know, on a bigger stage.
All right, go ahead.
Are there like any content creators you work with, like any like big shows or anything for like teams, or like what shows do you work for mainly, content creator wise?
I work mostly on the longer form YouTube shows at Overtime. So we do the NFL Draft House show. We do another one for basketball, NBA Draft House show, and a lot of our commercial or branded type of content projects that come up. Yeah, so I'm a little bit more on the YouTube side than I am on the TikTok side, for example.
All right, very good. Right here.
With viewing habits continuing to change with new apps, TikTok taking over short form content, you mentioned a second ago that YouTube is starting to go back into that longer form mode. Do you have any idea what the future of Overtime looks like in terms of the content they want to push towards?
Future of Overtime.
The future
Boy,
of Overtime.
there you go. There's a question.
Yeah. Well, you know, I don't want to speak for our executive leadership teams or anything like that. What I can say is that Overtime's building a lot of original IP, owned IP, intellectual property in the form of sports leagues. So I'm not sure how many people in the room follow OTE, which is Overtime Elite, a basketball league down in Atlanta where a number of different teams compete, and it's all made for the same digital audience in mind. We also have OT7, which is 7-on-7 football league, where we're now starting to see, this will be the first draft class, where the original OT7 athletes are going to now be eligible for the draft. So that full cycle is now happening. I think that's one of the most exciting things about Overtime as we've grown, is like first the Zions of the world, where our team was out filming them and putting them up on YouTube in the early kind of mixtape days. He came around, and then he was a pro in the league, and we tried to continue the relationships with those guys as they grew. Same thing now happening for OT7, and those guys becoming NFL pros. So that's kind of the cool thing that I would say is hopefully the momentum we're going to keep riding.
Go ahead, Brandon.
I was going to ask, what was it like seeing the Thompson twins in OTE, and now that they're on their young careers in the NBA and they're doing so well?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you mentioned the Thompson twins. They're a big point of pride for the Overtime crew. We have an awesome team down in Atlanta, I'll just say, that, you know, kind of runs that OTE league and is full-time down there. So I'm more working out of the New York office. But I did have a couple opportunities to work with the Thompson twins on a couple of projects. So sorry, I got so excited about the Thompson twins, I forgot exactly what your question was.
Like, what was it just like seeing them become like young stars?
That's right. So when they first got to overtime, all accounts, and even when I worked with them, was that they were very quiet, almost shy, and they really were locked in on basketball. And as you know, that's great. We want everyone to go be as successful as they can in basketball, but there's also a big marketing component and business component to being an athlete now in 2025. And so as we watch them and as I watch them and even till today, like they have become so much more marketable and outspoken and really grown into their own skin. And obviously a lot of that comes with having success in the league. You can now, walk a little taller and be a little more confident off the court with some of the marketing stuff. But that's been the real thing, is that they were really kind of quiet kids. And now they're superstars.
What is the future of social media? Like, where are we heading?
That's a good question. I think it's only going to get bigger. I hope that platforms like YouTube stay really popular and relevant, so that we're still getting, short form content when there's a place for short term content and scrolling, but also keeping some of that, fun long form storytelling in play. I personally, I don't know how many people have tried the Apple Vision Pro. Not to give a, unprompted plug for Apple here, but that stuff is truly amazing, and what they're doing with the virtual reality space. I know a couple people that have been starting to do some filming on the Meta Ray-Ban glasses that have, I just think content. I know it's a little bit of a cliche word, but content creation is just becoming everywhere. And people are interested in somebody working in the back of a kitchen and talking about how they prepare food and live streaming. It's like things that you never would have thought would have been popular are popular. It just goes to show you that, there's this democracy around content. People get to choose what they want to watch.
And the technology is advancing so rapidly. Is it ahead of the game with social media, or are they keeping lockstep together?
The technology has just made it so easy to create content. I mean, the power in an iPhone camera is almost what I had when I was starting to go to college, like with even a digital camcorder. It's like so incredible. And so that's allowing more people to create content that, even call it 50 years ago, never would have had a chance to make content, because what they were making wasn't considered mainstream or wasn't what a network wanted to create. So I think that's the cool thing about it. But there's so much technology between the drones. I had a drone that I was enjoying messing around with for a while. The Meta glasses, the virtual reality. I don't think any of that's going away.
Perfect. All right, Nolan, go ahead.
Were you involved in anything besides working at Rowan? And what would you say the biggest thing you took away from your experience at Rowan?
I did RTN, spent a lot of time with RTN. I also did theater. I mentioned doing theater in high school. I kind of stuck with that. Had some good friends across the way there in the theater department, and continued doing the lighting stuff and the sound stuff. And all that became really, really relevant because, in this building, they were teaching lighting for TV and cinema and camera. But over there, they were teaching lighting for stage and how to create an experience and an entertainment venue. And today, some of our projects have a live event component, right? We have an OT7 event or an OTE game. Like, the customer experience matters from the moment they park their car and they walk in the door, and there's signage and lighting and what audio is playing. Like, all those theater things I kind of took with me as far as, creating an experience. So yeah, I would say all that's quite relevant.
Go ahead, Sam.
In your tenure at Overtime, what's been your favorite project that you've worked on?
I'm going to go back to what I've mentioned a couple of times, NFL Draft House. Got to work with Jordan Davis, as I said, CJ Stroud, Garrett Wilson with the Jets up in my part of New Jersey. Tons of different athletes have come through on the show, and it's really cool to see them kind of evolve from college students to full-on professionals. I mean, they're walking into a locker room with 40-year-old quarterbacks leading the team, and they're 21 years old. Like, a lot of them, when we first start working with them, aren't even 21. So it's a really cool project to watch them go through their process. And even a person as elite as a prospective NFL star, what they want to work on and how they want to fine tune their 40 or their, bench press or whatever they're working on. It's a really fun project.
When you're doing a shoot, what is the crew size? Give me a sense of what that shoot looks like.
Yeah. So most of our shoots for a YouTube show like that, we go with 2 cameras. Sometimes we have audio, and a lot of times we'll have a producer as well.
So it's a small footprint.
Very small footprint.
And
Very small footprint.
Is that beneficial for what you're trying to do, or because sometimes you see some of these Hard Knocks is hardly using 2 cameras, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, there's that extreme, and then what you guys are doing.
Yeah. Of course, no knock on Hard Knocks. It's one of the great programs from NFL Films, but there is something to the technology allowing the cameras to get smaller and everything being able to get more intimate. When you move to that vlog style of production, which isn't always what we're doing, but when you move towards that vlog style of production, the person behind the camera sometimes acts as the producer, the audio person, the camera person, and that allows an intimacy that a larger crew with a big boom mic may not be able to get. When you have a relationship with the talent, you might be invited to a family dinner or, some moment that a larger crew kind of just changed the way they act. They act like there's a camera on them. They act like they need to perform instead of getting an intimate look at their real life. And that goes to sort of our shooting style is like, we're letting the camera roll. We're letting it go. It's not, anything scripted. It's not, kind of those shorter takes. It's letting the camera roll and trying to create as intimate of a comfortability as we can.
Best viral moment that you've experienced?
So this year, we had Jackson Dart on the show, and we had him in the Ram truck. He was driving to go look at, I believe he was house hunting up in North Jersey. Part of getting to your new city, we like to take these guys to look at some of the houses, and our fans love to see some of the big mansions that the NFL stars get to check out. And as he's going down the highway, he goes through an Easy Pass. And Jackson is not originally from New York, New Jersey area. He played at Ole Miss, and he did not know what the Easy Pass was. So we had a great clip that came out where he drove straight through the Easy Pass, and he told us that he had no clue what they were, and he'd been going through them for a while now without doing anything, without having an Easy Pass. And that clip went pretty viral around the time where the video launched. A lot of different social networks kind of clipped it off and put it out there, and we had a lot of fun with it. And I hope he paid his Easy Pass bill.
That's a good story. I like
Yeah.
that. All right, right here. Freelance to get your foot in the door.
I think whatever you can get. I wasn't so into the social media when I was in school here. It definitely wasn't as big as it was now. I think like freelance is great. Whatever you can get your hands on and whatever you want to do, just start to get your feet wet, get your hands dirty. Make mistakes. That's okay. You're going to learn from them and move forward. But social media is a great opportunity to, depending on what you want to do, make some content. Make some content. What works, what doesn't work. You're going to have a video that does well, and you're going to have a video that doesn't do well, and you have the ability to then sit there and look at some content that you created and the ins and outs of, and analyze it and say, all right, let me try this. That didn't work. I want to try this next. It's a great opportunity to try something without an employer having to bring you on and give you gear and give you access.
I'm going to throw another thing out there. LinkedIn. How did we connect?
Absolutely. I reached out on LinkedIn. I've been seeing all the stuff that you guys have been doing down here and the pizza with the pros. And I said, I got to get involved. So yeah, LinkedIn's a great spot. I will say, if you connect with people on LinkedIn, this is just one person's opinion, write a message. There's so many people that went to Rowan, and that's great that we have that in common. But, then somebody will come up and be like, hey, do you know John? You're connected with him on LinkedIn. And if I accept everyone that reaches out on LinkedIn, then you have a million connections and you really don't know any of them. And to me, what's the purpose of the platform? So I love when people write a message and say, I watched what you guys put out this week on Overtime, and ask a question. And then me, instead of just having nothing to, I don't know what to say, I have an easy way to continue the conversation. If you ask a question, easy for me to give an answer.
It's great advice.
Yeah.
Great advice. I love it. All right, Leo, go ahead.
So with Overtime, how do you make people who are skeptical of the platform believe essentially?
How do you make people skeptical of the platform being like Overtime or YouTube or social?
Just like so how do you make people who are like iffy about Overtime? How do you make them not the fans but potential investors or just believers in what you're doing?
Yeah, I think one of the things about these platforms is that, you know, people have the ability to stay and continue to watch a YouTube video if they like it, or not stay. So I think we kind of work more on a larger level of kind of looking at those analytics. I mean, the videos we put out, we look and we see what the average view duration was. And if that average view duration isn't, you know, where we want it to be, we look at what we might want to do differently next time. So we're constantly looking at the analytics. And I believe that applies both for the people that run our social accounts as well as, you know, our shows on YouTube. So, you know, your question kind of framed it more in like an individual level. I've never had anyone come up and be like, I don't know about Overtime, convince me. But we do have plenty of people that watch 30 seconds of our video and then they don't continue. They find something else on the right-hand side. And so that shows up in the analytics, and that's something we're constantly trying to figure out. How do we get better retention and better view times and make more people interested?
In the back. Yep.
How were those AI impact your job?
AI is certainly coming on fast. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how to use AI. Right now, I feel like for most people, it's a tool. It's a resource. Let's say I have to put together a creative brief, a creative pitch, tell a brand, this is the idea we want to do. Do you like it or not? Previously, if you wanted to make a storyboard, you had to draw. I can't draw. You had to hire an artist. If you hire a full-time storyboard artist, I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars you're talking. Now you have ways where you could almost visualize the video by saying, this is my idea, can you make the video? And maybe it's not perfect, but it's close enough to give somebody an idea of what your creative vision is. That's a lot of what my job entails, is communicating a creative vision of this is what we want to make, and putting it into terms that a brand or an ad agency will understand, or even an athlete will understand. This is what we're going for today on today's shoot. So that's a great way where like AI factors in as a tool. Is it going to come in and be the producer? I don't know. In 30 years, we'll see. But I think as long as you're thinking critically and you're kind of using those thought skills rather than, you know, I guess using it as a resource instead of, you know, relying on it to do the job.
Take me through the process, how you get the players and how that process works to do the videos that you want to do for your branded content.
Yeah. So one great thing is that we do have a lot of athletes in our ecosystem that have been fans of Overtime as they've been growing up and playing high school ball, or have worked with us on other projects in the past. So we do like to kind of pull from that Overtime family, guys that really understand what we're trying to do and again, are fans of it. But we also work with marketing agents that represent these players to kind of talk to them about what kind of deals they would be interested in, if they're open to doing projects and stuff like that, bring them opportunities, and try to see if we can, come to a good deal.
Is there someone that's been, well, you mentioned Zion Williamson before, but is there someone that's been like a huge supporter of Overtime over the years that we would recognize the name of the person?
Supporter of Overtime over the years. I believe Carmelo Anthony is an investor. Don't quote me on that. I think there's like a publicly available list of all the different guys through different funds that have kind of.
I'm talking about more like subjects that you do. Like, oh man, I want Overtime to do my video.
Yeah. I think a lot of it really has moved more towards marketing deals. A lot of stuff is brand supported. And when you're getting a brand to support a video, the athletes are also expecting to be compensated for their time.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we hope that they do want to work with us, but a lot of times it is us proactively going out to them and saying like, hey, we got a great project. We think this would be a good fit.
Paid for their time and their Easy Pass, evidently.
Right, exactly.
You got to pay for their Easy Pass. All right, go ahead, Connor.
Is there a certain athlete that you want to work with that you just have to be able to do that?
Who's on your wish list?
Who's on the wish list? That's a tough question because the show that I primarily am producing, again, we're always looking towards the next generation of draft class athletes. So it's hard for me to go out and say like, oh, Tom Brady or, something like that, because it's not really within the scope of some of our projects.
Are you following college sports to see who's the next person up?
Yeah, around now is when we're starting to kind of put together that list of who is going to be the next up on the Draft House shows. And it's not just who is the best athlete in the class. It's who is going to resonate on social media, who likes to be in front of the camera, who likes to kind of put out that aura that a Jackson Dart has.
Evidently. Let's go. Who have we got? Go ahead, Jenna.
So we talked about like social media analytics and how they're really easy to read because you can just click a button and it says how many people viewed your post, what were their reactions to it, all this. But back to your time working in television, how did you get feedback on like your productions and how did you get feedback and how did you like
Feedback on your production when you were at NBC.
That's a great question. Television uses the Nielsen ratings and has for many, many years. And so Professor Bean Cooley could tell you a lot more about how all that stuff works in the television department. But they basically poll people and they figure out how many people watch Sunday Night Football or whatever. And so a lot of the data came that way, but it was, they had to do physical polling. And so that data did not come as real time as you get on social media or you get on YouTube. So that has changed a lot. For somebody like myself, that was more the executive producers, the executives that were looking at those sort of Nielsen numbers to see how the overall shows were doing. Somebody like myself, I would get feedback from like the show producer, the executive producer on, how they thought a different feature came out or how they thought a story came out. Again, being more tied towards the creative than, the business side of how ratings are doing on the NFL or the NHL.
By the way, what's it like to work on the Olympics?
It is incredible. It is incredible. I honestly did not know a ton about bobsled when I got the job at NBC, but I became a quick learner and studied a lot and ended up having bobsled, skeleton as some of my beats for the Pyeongchang Olympics, which I went to in South Korea. It is really cool. And one of the coolest thing about it is I've talked a lot about the NFL here today because so many people are invested and it's just clearly the dominant sport in this country. But what was really cool about the Olympics is got to see athletes that were just as athletic, just as driven, and that 99% of this country had never heard of. Olympic champions that could walk and sit down in this room and no one would necessarily know who they were. And so it was an amazing challenge to get to meet those people and see firsthand how incredible they were, and then have that task of now I have to make the rest of the American TV and media audience think that they're just as amazing as me who got a chance to meet them. So that was the really powerful thing about the Olympics.
Did you ever go down a bobsled?
I did not. I did not. The closest I probably got was stepping on the beach volleyball court at Hermosa Beach, but I did not field any serves.
There you go. Beautiful. Right here.
Would you say, because you said that you have to scout out players without the draft, would you say your average work is like consistent with like when you're actually out working and when you're out like studying?
Yeah. The work hours that I have now at overtime are pretty solid. It's more of a, 9 to 5, 9 to 6-ish type of a gig. When I was at NBC Sports working on the live events, it was not that. When I was at Comcast Sportsnet, it was not that. We were there till whenever the hockey overtime ended, which can go on and on and on if you follow hockey. But it's obviously a labor of love in the sense of you gotta love watching sports because those are happening on the weekends. So I don't know. If you ask my wife, she says it's probably too much too much sports, but I get to say that it's for work.
Go ahead, Nolan.
What would you say overtime relationship with guys like Mikey Williams and Julian Newman who didn't really pan out in the bigger leagues?
Yeah, no, I think we just dropped a video on Mikey Williams this week, if I'm not mistaken. So, like I said, the relationships are so important, and I'm sure you've heard relationships are important in finding a job and in any business, but especially with the athletes, like, we don't want this to be a transactional relationship. We don't want to do one show, one video, one deal, pay them if they're being compensated and walk away. We want them to feel like co-producers. We want them to feel proud of what was made, and we want them to want to come back and do more down the line. So that's, somebody like Mikey Williams, for example, that's a huge pride point and important part of overtime and a lot of these, types of content creation gigs is creating those relationships so that you can get, opportunities to work with them down the line.
Go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so you got to talk to Jackson Dart and Jordan Davis. Of course, like seeing them on the screen or the football field, they're a football star. But what do you kind of getting to work with them in such a close segment with the NFL draft house? What is the kind of things that you get to see from them that the outside viewers maybe don't get to see?
Yeah, I get to see them be real human beings, and we try to capture a good amount of that. But I've seen a lot of these guys get stressed, get frustrated. You can tell when they've maybe had a little bit too much of the camera in their face and in their radius. And so again, I think that's really important, is to recognize that I'm a sports fan and I watch them on TV, and it's hard to disconnect like that these are real human beings, and you got to treat them as such. And they really appreciate being treated that way. They may be paid millions of dollars and they may be really good at what they do, but they have emotions and frustrations just like any of us. And so I think it's important to kind of have that emotional intelligence and give them their space when they need their space. I won't call anyone out specifically, of course, but like everyone has had moments where it's like, we need to take a break.
I would have loved to have been there when Jackson Dart's asking about Easy Pass. I mean, I would have loved to have been there at that moment, because the guy, he's an entertaining guy.
Absolutely.
He's to see those emotions yesterday when Scatterbo got hurt. I mean, just seeing that, he comes across very likable.
Yes.
Very passionate about his game, and what he's done to the Giants is great. So to be around then when he hears, oh man, yeah, you got to pay for this stuff when you go through these tolls. Yeah, you got to pay for it. John, go ahead.
Out of all the projects that you've done, what's one athlete that's kind of surprised you, just like while interviewing them, or for like feed, or even for a documentary?
Yeah, I think it goes back to my work on the Olympics, getting to meet these athletes that, again, some of their sports are like not properly financed, and when you juxtapose like the NFL world and the NBA world and really all the big pro sports in the US, like against some of these Olympic sports, I mean, they are just such good people, such dedicated athletes, and they're like fundraising to try to pay for a new bobsled. What a lot of people don't realize is that the Olympic teams in our country are not like funded by the government. It's a completely separate like nonprofit organization that runs it, so they kind of create their own financing, and they're competing against countries that are funded by the government. In fact, Olympic athletes in some other countries are basically doing military service. It counts as they're serving in the military, so they're given like the same status and benefits, but they are serving in a competitive field instead of in a combat unit type of thing. So
so like you said, you produce the NFL, like the draft show. What is your approach when it comes to like engaging the viewers and like getting them to like stay in tune with your episodes?
Approach to engaging the viewers.
Yeah, it definitely starts with spending the time casting and picking the right athletes. there are amazing athletes that don't really want to be on camera and don't really want to let loose, and they want to kind of be a little bit more buttoned up. And that's going to be tougher to try to pull out an entertaining, show from, especially on YouTube, where, as you guys know, like the Mr. Beasts of the world, they're blowing things up, they're rolling tanks over cars, like, that's the landscape that we're competing in. And so that's what's been a challenge that we've worked on, for years now, is trying to figure out like that balance between journalism and entertainment, right? So that remains one of the big North Stars.
Overtime's been around. How long? How long has overtime been
I
around?
think it's like 9 years now.
9 years.
But it's changed a lot in 9 years.
Yeah. In what way?
Like I said, I think like year one, they were going out. I wasn't there yet. They were going out filming on iPhones, and now we're, producing commercial projects. So I don't think there's been any year where it's really been exactly the same.
And how many years you been there now?
It'll be 4 years in January.
4 in January.
Yeah.
Okay, so 4 in January. In the 4 years you've been there, what has been the biggest change in your world in the 4 years you've been at Overtime?
NIL. So when I got to Overtime, the big headline, and one of the things that I think I have been attracted to, when you're looking up the company, was that they were paying 6-figure salaries to have elite high school basketball players come to Atlanta and play in the OTE league. And so all of those athletes in that original business plan were going to be professionals. They were going to be paid, and it was an alternate pathway. When Lamar Ball was doing his alternate pathway for his kids and other guys, like that was the big thing, was skip college and go right to the NBA. So this way you can really control your own destiny. You don't farm out your value to the colleges as a one and done type player. That changed on a dime when NIL happened, and all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, I do want to go to college because I can make money going to college. And so credit to the folks at Overtime that pivoted that business very quickly to say, wait a second, we still have a big value. You come here as a scholarship athlete, give you an education, give you basketball training that a public school never could really touch, and then move on to the college game and have better tape because they have a video team, have a better marketing platform because Overtime helps you build your social. And so the business plan changed on a dime, all because of NIL.
Wow, that's crazy. Let's see, who have we gotten? I think everybody. All right, let's go right. Oh, Gerasimus.
So, what's like a current project that you're working on? Because you guys always seem to go after these top-notch athletes before they even make it to the pros to try to get that early edge on some of the other social media content creators. So, what's a current athlete or current project that you're currently working on that you think is going to really help Overtime?
Yeah, well, right now we are gearing up for the next season of our Draft House shows, both shows. So we are actively trying to figure out who the next Jackson Dart, Shador Sanders, Ashton Ginties are going to be for next season, which, if you know any of those three guys, it's a pretty tall order for the next draft class. I'm also working on our NFL social media partnership. So we have a partnership with the league itself where we go to Super Bowl. We have a setup on Radio Row, and we get to make content with people there for the Pro Bowl, for the Super Bowl, for the Combine, and for the draft. So that's another project that's going on, and we're really proud of our partnership with the NFL that we're hoping to continue to grow.
How long has that partnership been in place?
This is the third season.
And is it? It's got to be a great thing for Overtime.
Yeah, absolutely. Overtime for a long time existed in the space where we were working outside of the games and outside of the leagues as kind of that independent content creator. And to kind of bridge that gap, it was a big step. There were a lot of changes, a lot of more rules that you have to follow, and make sure that everything is, sort of working in tandem with what the league's trying to do, but also staying true to our voice as well. So,
does the league, I'm not interfere or interject frequently to make sure they get their messaging across to Overtime?
Yeah, they're very good about laying out the guidelines, right? They give us the guidelines, they give us the parameters in which to work with, and then our teams let loose on figuring out, okay, what within that, what are we able to do? And most of it is not as much content related, but branding related. Okay. When you put the NFL shield in the background, there's a standard set of rules that apply to everybody.
Okay. Right here. Go ahead, Nick.
So, how have your early experiences in the Sixers and Flyers locker rooms translated to what you're doing now, producing shows with the future prospects of the NFL and the NBA and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think twofold. I think first, like, that was my first experience being around professional athletes, especially in a more off-camera environment. There were cameras in the locker room, but they're starting to be themselves a little more than when they're doing the sideline interview and the lights are bright and stuff like that. Getting to know how the athletes tick as human beings, as well as what you see on TV, but also learning the different parts of the industry and figuring out my path was probably the biggest thing that I took away from there. Like understanding how the live environment work, how a building works on a game day, and all the different moving pieces from TV to operations to the game officials themselves. Figuring out what I wanted to do.
Very good. You already got a couple times. Let's go, Sam.
So you talked about the Olympics many a time with your experience with them. Do you plan on doing something with overtime for the Olympics in winter of 2026, or even in LA for the summer of 2028, because it will be on U.S. soil?
So Overtime actually does have a partnership with NBC Sports for the Olympics. I did not make it happen as much as I would have wished to take credit. Like, I came over and then they got an NBC partnership. I can't take credit for that one. But our team was in Tokyo. Our social media team was in Tokyo, getting a chance to get on the ground and make some content. There's a lot of people that are realizing that the average age of a television viewer gets older and older every year, and a lot of people are cutting the cord. That's no secret. It's been happening for many years. And so, these big corporations and networks and leagues want to figure out how they can speak to the next generation, you guys, and even younger, and they have to adapt. And so Overtime's, providing ways to do that.
I'm very curious. There's a lot of hands that went up when I said, all right, how many of you follow Overtime, all that? A lot of hands went up.
Yeah.
This is your target audience.
Yep.
Okay. What do you want to know from them that could help you?
I'd love to know what everyone consumes within Overtime. We have OTE fans, we have OT7 fans, YouTube, social media only.
Who wants to chime in? Who wants to go first? Go ahead. Oh, Leo, go ahead.
I really like the social media aspect of it because for a lot of the time, for high school players, it was just a newspaper that was covering. So to give them a light that they could use to not only elevate themselves as an athlete, but as a celebrity too, it's nice to see that somebody like me who's good at basketball at my age can just go to the pros and help OT, help them all the time.
All right, Aiden, go ahead.
I was gonna say like Instagram ad and also videos staying like mostly like the regular overtime account. Plus, I mean the football ones, since I love football a lot, and seeing these athletes perform and get recognition to play in college and then the pros. And also they have like the pool and all that stuff. I'm like, it's very cool.
All right, Brandon.
So I first discovered overtime when I was watching like the basketball highlight tapes, the high school tapes. I stuck around for OTE because I really liked the storytelling in that, as you can tell with the other question I asked you before. So I'd say between those two is where I spend like a lot of my time.
All right, Keith.
Sorry, I like a lot of stuff you guys do with content creators. So I think you guys did something with Zero Bounce. I watch him a lot, but that was really interesting to see how you guys do stuff like that because I love that content creation, like collaboration. I think that's really lost now. So I love the stuff you guys do with that.
Andres.
Oh yeah, so I like the Overtime Elite as well. I just liked watching them play. There's a lot of good players, a lot of good talent. Like the Thompson twins, Eli Ellis, and they're doing well in college. They can go to the league. Instagram, high school hoopers, growing up Zion Williamson, stuff like that. Yeah.
All right, Ian, go ahead.
I like how you guys talk about the underrated players, like the John Morants or the guys you would.
Well, he's not underrated. Do you think John
Well,
Morant's
I mean, coming out of high school, like the
Oh,
guys
okay,
you
okay,
would
I got you.
never look
I got
at,
you.
and you give them a second chance, and gives them. They go from let's say a 2-star recruit to all of a sudden a 4-star recruit, and I like how you guys have expanded over the years on different sports, content creation. You're not just one-dimensional.
You gonna bring all this info back to the powers be?
This is great. We usually pay for market research, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we're here for, right. All right, internships. What does Overtime do for internships? You have 90 students here that would be interested in hearing about a potential opportunity to work at Overtime.
Yeah. I'm not so locked in on what the internship opportunities are at the moment. I know we've had a couple different interns over the years, but what I do know is for anyone who's looking to do social media type stuff, what our social team always says is they want to find people who are actively creating content. I think that's, for anyone who does want to get into that type of stuff, that's the best thing you could do. It doesn't matter if your content gets 10 views, 1,000 views. You might have a video that goes really big. It's not uncommon, and it's possible to do without any major equipment or without an internship. Obviously, it's nice to get paid. We all like to get paid. But if you want to create content, start creating content. If you've done that consistently for a year, if you have a daily TikTok that you put out and you've done that for 365 days straight, that says a lot to a future employer that you made a goal, you stuck to it, you did it for a year. And if you can explain how you got better over that year, my numbers, they started at 10, I got to 20, I got to 50. That just shows that you can grow something yourself. And so that's the entrepreneurial kind of spirit that Overtime is consistently looking for.
Hannah Short, come on down here. So I want to introduce you. Hannah Short is a sophomore.
Yep.
And she oversees 27 students that are doing social media for Rowan Athletics. So the partnership between SportsCam and Rowan Athletics. Just share with Brandon with Jeremy rather what we have created with our social media team.
Yeah, so it started very small. There were 6 of us who was running Rowan football. About a year ago we started, and now we have it's gone from 6 to 27. So we have a crew of graphics people, we have a crew of videographers, and a crew of photographers, and then coordinators for each team. And they're all creating content, not just game content, but practice content. How can we promote the games? All the things you're talking about when it comes to analytics and promoting to the outside world is done by these 27 students.
What's your most viral post?
So we have this crazy thing in New Jersey called the Breakfast Bowl, and it's between Montclair State and Rowan University, and it's the War of Taylor Ham, which I assume is what you call it, and pork roll, and it's always pork roll always wins because it's the best, but that always does really well.
I went to Rowan, so I got to be team pork roll.
You have to be team pork roll. Always pork roll.
Yes. So yeah, there you go. So we're now going to be. I believe you reached out to some people, right, that are here tonight about extending this now into the winter sports season. Brandon Raj right here is Brandon is number 2, working with Hannah. They work there. They're 2 main coordinators for our social media. Students are getting paid. Some are getting internship credit, but everyone's getting something out of the internship in addition to the experience of doing social media. And it's very well run. And the numbers have. What is football, or is football the one? Let's use football. Where are the numbers from when we started to where they are today?
So I'm very proud to say, and I'm really excited to announce this in a couple weeks, but we're about 500 followers away from 10K, and we started at 5,000.
5,000. So we doubled it in about a year. All done by students.
Oh, we're not following. Go follow right now.
Yes, go follow right now. So if you were one of the ones that Hannah reached out to you, I would make sure you see Hannah afterwards. Anything you want to say, final notes, because they're excited because we're about to announce 39 students that are going to get internships with the Delaware Blue Coats. What would you say? And I want to see your reaction as we do this.
I'm excited
because it's a cool thing.
This was not here when I was here.
This is our most important partnership. Think about it. You are one phone call away as a player from playing in the NBA, and our students are working games in a variety of capacities with players on the court that played an NBA game that year. And you're a freshman or you're a sophomore.
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, there's 6 freshmen in this room that are going to be one of the interns. 6, okay, of the 39, 6 freshmen. So that's pretty impressive, I think. But what would you say about last words to this group?
Yeah, I think, everything that you're speaking of doing, it's exactly what you'll do when you go out and you get a job. And the ability to say, I've done it. I mean, I remember being frustrated. They want 3 years of experience for an internship. How do you get 3 years of experience for an internship? It's getting your hands dirty in any way possible. It's covering the Rowan athletics. It's doing the blue coats. It's doing Rowan television. It's all of those things. Sure, the athletes may get more famous and higher paid, and there may be more viewers, but the viewers doesn't matter. The stories that you're telling are the same stories that you'll tell when you go out into the real world. And so get out of your dorms and go make some content.
Let's give Jeremy a round of applause.